NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Are you a citizen or are you not a citizen? That is the question President Trump wants to put on the 2020 census. NTD's Holly Kellum has the latest twist in this ongoing controversy.
President Trump saying today it was fake news that his administration had given up on adding a citizenship question to the 2020 census. Last night, he tweeted that he would do whatever is necessary to get the question put on the census.
You go through all this detail and you're not allowed to ask whether or not somebody is a citizen?
But earlier in the day, the Justice Department notified those opposing the question that it would not be added. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, who requested the question be added, also seemed to have admitted defeat. The Census Bureau has started the process of printing the decennial questionnaires without the question, he said in a statement yesterday. Today, we reached out to the Justice Department, the Commerce Department, and the Census Bureau to ask whether the question will be added. So far, though, no response. The Supreme Court looked at the case, but last week sent it back to a lower court. This essentially blocked the question from being added. The Census Bureau said it needed to start printing the questionnaires by the end of last month. This was a victory for states like New York, which fear that people in the country illegally won't fill out the survey if the question is asked, resulting in lower population counts in their states.
Citizenship question would affect us with a loss of dollars, millions and millions of dollars from the federal government to New York State. We could lose representation in Congress.
Immediately after the Supreme Court's ruling, Trump said he was trying to delay the printing of the survey till the case was resolved. He seems to still be trying to do that. Holly Kellum, NTD News.
A federal judge in Seattle has issued an order preventing the government from detaining asylum seekers who entered the United States illegally. NTD's Miguel Moreno has the White House's statement, which has condemned the court's decision as being at war with the rule of law.
Attorney General William Barr ruled in April that asylum seekers who enter the United States illegally are not to be released from detention until their case has finished. But yesterday, U.S. federal judge Marsha Peckman of Seattle blocked Barr's order granting the illegally detained the right to a bond hearing. In response, Press Secretary Stephanie Grisham condemned the judge's decision today, a decision that she said incentivizes human trafficking. In May, CBP reported a record-breaking number of apprehensions at the southern border, an overwhelming 132,000. And leading these immigrants across, the agency has said are criminal organizations. With the possibility of release on bond, immigrants may be more enticed to make the illegal and dangerous journey with the help of smugglers.
At the same time, the story is also about vulnerable populations from Central America who continue to be enticed into a smuggling cycle that puts them at risk and enriches violent criminal organizations.
Grisham also said in her statement that Judge Peckman acted single-handedly in blocking Barr's order, adding that the judge had no right in making that decision. Peckman included in her conclusion that she expects her order to be appealed swiftly. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
President Donald Trump planning a spectacular 4th of July celebration in Washington, D.C. His Salute to America event will feature military flyovers and giant fireworks.
President Trump wants this year's 4th of July celebration in the Capitol to be an event not soon forgotten. Battle tanks have arrived at the National Mall. And the military display will feature flyovers by the U.S. Navy's famed Blue Angels, confirmed the Secretary of Interior, David Longley Bernhardt, in a tweet. Trump tweeted, "The Pentagon and our great military leaders are thrilled to be doing this and showing to the American people, among other things, the strongest and most advanced military anywhere in the world." The fireworks show is expected to dwarf previous years in terms of both duration and scale. It will run 35 minutes compared to last year's 20 minutes, and fireworks will be launched from platforms set up stretching 1 mile. That's 4 times larger than previous years. The effect? A sky bursting with color.
It's kind of like a bouquet of flowers. If you have one bouquet of flowers, yeah, the flowers will spread, the stalks will spread out, and you'll have the flowers in the sky pretty wide. But if you take multiples of bouquets and spread them out a mile wide, then the sky is much more filled, and also the stage is much larger to work with.
To create the effect of an American flag floating over the Lincoln Memorial, thousands of aerial shells have been programmed to reach specific points in the sky, then explode in unison to form the flag's iconic stars and stripes. Phil Grucci is the CEO and fifth-generation representative of his family's business. His company, along with Phantom Fireworks, agreed to donate the fireworks show, which he said cost $750,000. Grucci tried to measure his level of excitement.
It's beyond a 10. I don't know, it's way beyond a 10. Give it a 50 or 100 or 2,000. You know, it's a great honor.
In a Twitter post, the president thanked the companies for their generosity in donating the biggest fireworks show Washington, D.C. has ever seen. Air traffic at nearby Ronald Reagan National Airport will be suspended during the flyovers and the fireworks. Cindy Drucker, NTD News.
Record-breaking day at the U.S. stock market today, with major indices closing at new highs. NTD reporter Jeremy Sandberg has the latest on what's influencing the markets.
The S&P 500 hit a record high at the open today, with boosts from tech and healthcare stocks, and things only got better from there, with the S&P 500 and Dow posting their best June performance in decades. The Dow, S&P 500, and the Nasdaq all set new closing records. President Donald Trump celebrated the gains on Twitter, saying, "S&P 500 hits new record high, up 19% for the year. Congratulations." The United States and China have agreed to hold off on new tariffs while they open a new round of negotiations, easing investor sentiment. Investors are anticipating the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates over concerns about slowing global economic growth due to trade tensions and weaker than expected jobs data from June.
Markets are still rallying under this idea that bad news is good news, that weak economic data means that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates, and somewhat perversely, investors like that idea.
Trump said on Twitter, China and Europe playing big currency manipulation game and pumping money into their system in order to compete with USA. We should match. Trump has said that the Fed is slowing economic growth and depressing the stock market by keeping its benchmark rate in a range of 2.25% to 2.5%. The president said yesterday that he plans to nominate 2 economists for the Fed's Board of Governors, who will need to be confirmed by the Senate. The ADP National Employment Report released today said U.S. private employers added 102,000 jobs in June, far below economists' expectations. The stock market had an early close at 1 p.m. today and will be closed tomorrow for the 4th of July, making for a short week. Investors are looking toward the Labor Department's official jobs report that comes out Friday. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News, New York.
Just a day before the 4th of July, a ceremony on the USS Hornet welcomes a new group of American citizens. Here's NTD's Eileen Eng reporting from California.
Congratulations, you are now U.S. citizens.
78 people from 25 different countries were sworn in as citizens of the United States today. They made oaths, recited the Pledge of Allegiance, and sang American songs. Vice Admiral Linda Fagan, commander of the Pacific area, welcomed the diverse group.
It takes a lot of work and dedication and determination to become a naturalized citizen, but they really epitomize for me the best of what we are as a country, the diversity and perseverance and all that it takes to be a citizen in a great democracy like ours.
The new citizens also received certificates recognizing their accomplishment.
Being amongst all the people and hearing their different stories and how proud they are to become a U.S. citizen. It's very emotional.
Pablo from Mexico was happy to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. He, like others, are already thinking about how to give back to their new country.
I want to bring a little bit of the Mexican Hispanic background culture here. I want to, do a little bit more for the community.
I am planning to go back to nursing school. Hopefully, I'll be able to do more as a U.S. citizen.
After a long wait, they are just in time for their first 4th of July as proud American citizens. Eileen Ing, NTD News, Alameda, California.
President Trump warned this morning that Iran has breached its limit on uranium production. He says the country is violating their $150 billion deal with the U.S.
President Trump said this morning that Iran was violating the $150 billion plus $1.8 billion in cash nuclear deal with the United States. He added that they have now breached their stockpile limit, referring to Iran's allowed quota of uranium. On Thursday, former Secretary of State John Kerry acknowledged that out of the $150 billion in sanctions imposed by the U.S., Iran would receive about $55 billion after debts were settled. The deal was made under the Obama administration. Kerry said he thinks that some of it will end up in the hands of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps or other entities, some of which are labeled terrorists.
They gave the money out to terrorists. If you remember John Kerry, they asked him that question, do you know the money's going to be used for terror? He said, yes. Essentially, he said at least some of it's going to be used. I mean, he knew about it. He actually said that some of the money may be used for terror. What kind of a deal is that?
The International Atomic Energy Agency, which monitors Iran's nuclear program under the deal, confirmed that Tehran has breached their limit. Iranian leader Hassan Rouhani announced today that the country's Arak nuclear reactor will be reopened if the previous nuclear deal agreements are not upheld.
به هر مقداری که دلمون خواست، به هر مقداری که ضرورت ما بود، نیاز ما بود، این رو از 3.67 میبریم بالا.
Washington has effectively ordered all countries to halt all purchases of Iranian oil or face sanctions of their own.
One country, two systems. Hong Kong has it, and the Chinese Communist regime has plans for Taiwan to have it. But the island republic is saying no.
We will never accept one country, two systems. This has become a Taiwan consensus, particularly when Taiwan sees the current situation in Hong Kong, Xinjiang, and Tibet.
At a cross-strait relations conference in Washington, D.C., Taiwan's Minister of Mainland Affairs Council, Chen Ming-tong, said the CCP's one country, two systems is intended to eliminate Taiwan, and Taiwan will never accept that. He called on Beijing to give up this political framework. He also pointed out that Taiwan is on the front lines of the movement to end Chinese Communist Party hegemony in the region.
The key to cross-strait peace lies in China's democratization. Only then can its contradictions be resolved and a solution to peace.
U.S. State Department official Jonathan Moore reiterated the White House's position of supporting the status quo in cross-strait relations. This includes maintaining Taiwan's existing diplomatic ties and improving its standing internationally.
We forcefully advocate for Taiwan's participation across the international system. And this includes doing everything we can to facilitate Taiwan's participation at this year's International Civil Aviation Organization Triennial Assembly, at Interpol, the UN General Assembly, and anywhere else Taiwan can contribute to the international system.
With Taiwan's presidential elections just 6 months away, Moore also expressed American support for Taiwanese democracy in the face of Beijing interference.
Democracy is Taiwan's best weapon for self-defense. China will interfere with key democratic elections in Taiwan through sophisticated cyber measures. The United States stands ready to help Taiwan preserve its election integrity.
Reporting by Kitty Wong, NTD News.
The co-founder and CEO of a major web tech company was embarrassed at his own conference on artificial intelligence. NTD's Daniel Hull explains that company's link to an authoritarian regime.
You may have never heard of one of the largest search engines in the world. It has been running into scandal after scandal. Chinese search engine Baidu is China's biggest website and the 4th largest in the world after Google, YouTube, and Facebook. It's a near copy of Google because Google is banned in China. At an AI developers conference, the CEO of Baidu was embarrassed in front of the crowd.
What's your problem?
The incident is the latest in a string of humiliations for China's monopoly search engine. Google was slowly pushed out of China starting in 2009, creating space for Baidu and other Chinese search engines to grow. Further, Google did not follow the censorship of the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, but Robin Li was very willing. Baidu is a real-world example of internet technology functioning specifically for a single political party. Baidu is a tech giant in China, and no business is allowed to prosper there without subservience to the CCP. Baidu offers state-sponsored propaganda as truth and censors all dissenting views. Further, the CCP uses Baidu's facial recognition technology for monitoring citizens, and AI is used for censoring politically sensitive posts from users. Just recently, Baidu was accused of directing users to international gambling websites, according to Chinese news outlet Modern Express. In December 2018, Baidu was exposed for storing illegal information on users and reporting false information online. On May 30th, Baidu said that any posts through its online forums made before January 2017 would disappear for an undisclosed amount of time. Baidu is the model for what an authoritarian government can do with advanced internet technology. Daniel Hall, NTD News.
One more win and they'll have the World Cup. Victory for Team USA last night as they dramatically beat England in the Women's World Cup final.
American fans celebrate as they beat England 2-1 in the French city of Lyon. There was disappointment and elation. A gripping theatre of sports. An early goal by Team USA's Kristen Press, soon equalised by England's Ellen White. But at 31 minutes, it was Alex Morgan's header that took the USA to the final. She celebrates by pretending to sip a nice cup of tea. The USA are the world's top-ranked team and the defending champions.
I totally think the U.S. is going to win this entire thing, but that was our last good contest. The next one I think is going to be easier, actually. So
she did great. It was unbelievable. Yeah, she's our new hero.
It ended in heartbreak for England, with a goal ruled out for offside and a late penalty saved, all adding to the drama. But while England's Lionesses didn't pounce to the finals, some still felt there was a lot to be proud of.
A bit disappointed, but they'll be back in 4 years' time, and I think they'll clinch it then. But no, very proud of them. Great football. It's come on so much. Yeah.
As for the victors, with the finals on Sunday, they're on a mission for their 4th World Cup trophy. Jane Worrell, NTD News.
New York City's Frick Collection is presenting to the public one of the most elaborate art forms of all, ceiling paintings. NTD's Penny Jo takes us there to see the work of a great but underappreciated craftsman who mastered the art.
When we talk about ceiling paintings or frescoes, the first thing that comes to mind is probably this. The creation of Adam and his creator Michelangelo have become so famous that most people don't even know of any other fresco artists. But that doesn't mean that such a person doesn't exist.
Tiepolo was really one of the greatest fresco cycle painters of all time. I mean, he's one of the greatest painters of the 18th century, one of the greatest Italian artists.
The Italian painter Giovanni Tiepolo was born 200 years after Michelangelo and paints in the theatrical and ornamental Rococo style.
He frescoed great ceilings in Venice, in the sort of northern sort of region of Italy, but also in Germany and Spain and in other countries in Europe.
Among his most notable works are a series of ceiling paintings he did for an Italian palace called Palazzo Arcino in Milan, where Tiepolo featured mythological scenes, including the Greek hero Perseus saving the princess Andromeda from the sea monster, and the solar god Apollo warning his son Phaeton of the danger of riding the sun chariot.
He really creates sort of convincing scenes of these sort of visions of heaven on the ceilings and transmits this sort of sense of sort of glory and magnificence in a really wonderful way. He was someone clearly very skilled at fresco painting, incredible inventor of compositions and stories.
But the unfortunate reality and the reason why we are seeing some of the pictures in black and white is that the frescoes were bombed and destroyed by the Allies during World War II. The Frick Collection in New York City displays the frescoes' preparatory oil paintings to help the public imagine the striking beauty of the original works.
And I think what the exhibition brings to light is the sadness of the fact that these objects are destroyed somewhere, within the last 100 years. I mean, these things were destroyed in 1943, so fairly recently. So the show is meant to celebrate these frescoes, but also make us realize how fragile these works of art are. I mean, things can be destroyed very easily, and we have very little evidence as to how they look, even though they were destroyed as recently as 1943.
The show marks the first ever reunion of these preparatory works of Tiepolo. It's open to the public until July 14th this year. Penny Jo, NTD News.
50 years after Neil Armstrong made history as the first man on the moon, a new documentary featuring the voice of Harrison Ford delves into a rarely seen side of the famed astronaut.
Armstrong from Wapakoneta, Ohio, he's got to be the guy.
The documentary is comprised of interviews from people who knew him, such as colleagues, family members, and friends, as well as never-before-seen videos and photos from Neil Armstrong's life.
I think the film really shows my father in a way that I think people don't know, and that I very much want them to know.
Armstrong's son, Mark, explains why the family chose Harrison Ford to narrate the documentary.
Yeah, he's a pilot, and he understands, the spirit of aviation and sort of I think some of those things that drew my father to that field in the first place. So I really felt like he would get it.
Mark Armstrong hopes that people will leave the cinema with a realistic impression of his father.
That's like my goal, is for people to know him the way I knew him.
Directed by David Fairhead, Armstrong is set to hit theaters on July 12th.
Brown bears returning to Katmai National Park in Alaska, post-hibernation, stopped first at a river to feast on some salmon.
The bears can be seen battling over the best spots to catch salmon, while a seagull calmly watches on. The footage was captured by the Katmai National Park and Explore. The last time the bears were seen was last October, when they fished for salmon before heading off for a long season of hibernation.
That's all for NTD News. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.